Now I'm shooting this vlog way ahead of time. This should be appearing for you in early mid-January, sometime in there. I'm actually filming this on December 18th. Getting in as much stuff as I can before we leave. Today's Saturday. When we leave on Monday, we'll be gone for 2 weeks, visiting Oklahoma and Texas, visiting my son, daughter-in-law, 2 grandsons there in Oklahoma City, then driving down to Texas and seeing my wife's parents and her family. So that's why I'm trying to stay way ahead to get plenty of stuff done. But anyway, I finished up the basic skills series using this Ryzen Panzer thingy stompy robot guy. And I had thought that as I went through and did that by the time I got to the end, that I would have mostly a complete model that I could, maybe cobble together an episode about the model or something like that. But I realized early on in the process that using so many different products and so many different techniques, even though I tried to keep the colors very similar on it, the need to use it as a demo model, I realized just after the first episode, in fact, I realized, okay, this is not gonna end up being a model. I'm just gonna have to use it as a demonstrator, and I was fine with that. But I really do like the look of this thing, and I want to build it. So what I've started doing, and this was just kind of an experiment, is I just used some rubbing alcohol to start stripping down a lot of that application that I put on. Well, I need to keep doing it along here to get the dirt up, because I'm not so much worried about the color of the various things as I am this heavier texture down around the feet, and maybe some of the texture, because there's a slight texture in some of the places where the chipping is. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this down for the most part, and then prime it again, see how it looks, make sure it looks fairly smooth. And then later on in 2022, start it as a new project where I'm focused on the model, not all the techniques. But I just really like the way this looks. There's so many opportunities for just so many little greeblies and details on it that can be weathered. And I mean, you can see how it's going to look. I mean, I'm not going to do it that much different. Although I do think that in addition to this tannish color, I'm going to put in some of the German camo colors, the green and the more red-brown color. And I don't know whether I'll do large areas of color or some kind of spaghetti pattern camo. I don't know that yet, but I think I'm going to add in some additional colors. Put on some decals. I didn't put decals on it so that for the series, the basic skills series, it wouldn't interfere with the look of it. Because I didn't want to have too many. That's why I didn't do any camo. I just wanted to focus on single color applications, very basic applications. So this model will show up in another video. I'm going to get it stripped down, reprimed, and I don't know that I'll necessarily say anything about, okay, this was the star of the basic skills series. I think I'll just say, okay, here I'm building this model, and just go into it like I normally would. But I think I've said this before. If you haven't ever considered this kit, if you don't have it, if you haven't built it, it's a fun kit to build, and it looks really cool. And there are loads and loads of opportunities for weathering on this thing. So if you can get your hands on one, and I got this at HLJ, and they're actually not too expensive, Hobby Link Japan. So if you're interested in something like this, take a look at their website. They have, I think they're out of this, but they have like the UN version, which is, as far as I can tell, it's this, and it's olive drab. So I don't know that if you got that you would be bound by honor to paint it, in the UN colors of their science fiction universe. I think you could do it however you want. Now you may recognize this. This was the last Patreon exclusive video series that I finished. This SAFS. I'm working on the Basilisk now, but this one, I think it went 12 episodes. It was a fairly long one. I went into great detail about it. And when I got done with this, I mean, all along through it, I and it's my own fault. I was okay with it, but there were a lot of things. There were some things that I tried that I thought. Anytime I'm doing modeling, and you may run into the same thing, there's things that I'll try that I think, okay, this should be a good idea. I think this will work well. And then when you put it on, sometimes the execution, either your execution is not good, or the idea is not good, or something just doesn't turn out like you want. And that initial chipping that I did on this model, it was kind of like that for me. It wasn't to the point that I said, okay, I need to just repaint it and redo it. But it didn't have the look that I wanted. I wanted it to appear more like a hastily applied field camouflage that rubbed off in a lot of areas and was just kind of scratchy and, not just chipped, but just worn down. I think partly because of the weathering over the top of it and the color choices, it's hard to tell, is that chipping or is that just dirt, Anyway, it's not like I'm looking at it going, this is the worst thing ever. It's not like, I'm ashamed of it or I'm not happy with the overall result. I just looked at it and thought, okay, I learned something from that. That's not optimal. If somebody were asking me, hey, show me some of your machining Krieger work, I might show them this, but I certainly wouldn't say this is, in my mind, the best example of the machining Krieger work that I've done. But what has surprised me, and this is kind of the point of this half of the vlog, is sometimes the way we view it is not how everybody else views it. I have been so surprised at how many people have told me they really like this. One guy wrote me a nice message. I think it was on Instagram. I'd put up some photos of this, and they got really good response. And one guy left me a nice comment either on Instagram or Twitter, and then sent another thing along to elaborate. I think it was the same guy. Sometimes I get people confused. But just really complimentary on this piece and the work that I did on it, and just saying, I think this is the best machining Krieger work you've ever done. Now, I say that not to toot my horn, not to go, yay, John, but, keep in mind that the way we view things as the creator, as the artist, I'll just use that term, as the artist, the way we view it is not always the way everybody else views it. So, not that we shouldn't always try to do better and try to achieve the goal that we have in our head, but when I have to remind myself that when I'm working on some of this stuff, and if it's not turning out exactly like I want, to remember that I don't always look at it objectively, but rather with how I want it to look. And sometimes it's still looking pretty good. So I don't sit back on that and rest on that, but I take encouragement from that to know, okay, in the eyes of my peers, it seems as if I'm progressing in the right direction. So that's what I take away from some very kind words that some people offered me about this that I wasn't real impressed with when I finished.